What is light? Just how does it affect us? The light from the rising sun is always a source of inspiration and wonder. And although even today there are questions about what light is, we do know a great deal about how it behaves. This is the science of optics. We know that light is a form of radiant energy.
One thing makes everything else. That one thing is light. As it weaves and grows and weaves and grows and pulses and breathes in and breathes out, that one thing creates a myriad of everything else. I deal in spatial relationships and foregrounds and backgrounds and inlines and outlines. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. My father had a glass business. My grandfather was a glazer. My uncles were glazers. I always painted. I always drew when I was young. I spent most of my time through high school drawing my left hand instead of doing algebra or any other kinds of homework. It really kind of prepared me for where I am right now in a certain way, because I guess I've always been into optics and mirrors and glass and refractions, and it's quite amazing, actually.
Awakening Code Radio with Eric Rankin.
We have artist Michael R. Evans in the studio with us, who, if you ever watch the Spirit Science videos, say his work is evolutionary. What he came up with was a solid that is smaller in area and smaller in number of sides than the smallest solid that math would say exists. As soon as you curve the lines, you get to a more elemental shape that he calls...
Let me try and explain how this all came about in the beginning. Right before the Vietnam War started, I volunteered for the draft. And that really gave me a chance to excel. And I rose very quickly from a private to a second lieutenant in 13 months. So it was a place where I found acceptance. What it did, how it set me up for life, was it taught me two things: accomplish the mission and no excuses. I met Robert Auerbach in the late 60s, early 70s, and I was in the real estate business at the time, and I had a friend, Danny Morgan, who was a very good artist as well, who used to paint portraits. And one day he brought this gentleman, Robert Auerbach, out to the house. And Auerbach had this big curved triangular paper sculpture. And it was beautiful. It was paper, it was light, it was strong. And Morgan took this sculpture and put paint on the face of it, and then took it over to the wall and started rocking the structure. I must have one here. Yeah, this one right here. And started rocking it up against the wall, and I'm video Super 8ing, because they didn't have video in those days, nor computers, nor a web. And I'm looking through the lens of my Super 8 camera, and then Morgan takes the structure away from the wall, and all of a sudden I see this like umbilical cord that goes all the way back into time and space, and I realized at that moment that this was a sign that I was looking for. There was something familiar about it, something that resonated within me that I didn't even understand, I wasn't even looking for. And it was really at that moment that my life completely changed. The flower of life is something that's come to me just recently. It was there, I saw it, but it was never referred to as the flower of life. And it wasn't until much later that I realized that it had a name. So Auerbach started thinking, how do I translate this from 2 dimensions to 3 dimensions? So he took out his compass and started drawing circles. This is just one segment of some of those circles. So he cut on this side of the line of the circle, and he scored on the inside part of the circle. All of a sudden, what was 2-dimensional was now 3-dimensional. I began just making that one space, which was sort of looked like a football, the Tryon Ray. I didn't call it the Tryon Ray yet. It didn't have a name. No one had ever described it before. So I would start buying science books that had photographs in them. They started talking about things like string theory, photons, muons, gluons, all looking for the smallest regular polyhedra, or the smallest thing that can't be divided into anything else. In the dimension of straight lines, this is the smallest regular solid. But in the world of curved lines, this, what I call the Tryon Ray, is the smallest regular solid. So I went to a lot of different industries. I went to NASA to talk to them about building space materials because we knew how to make it stronger and lighter than what they were going to do. I went to different universities and tried to talk to their engineering departments. And it was way, nobody was interested in even really talking to us. It wasn't invented there at NASA. They had already made plans. Who are we? Where's my doctorate? So nothing really, there was nowhere to go with it. That's when we decided to make it a children's toy. That's when we decided to make these ideas, and that's when we made it into space clusters. Because we felt that children would have no problem understanding curved lines. When I was doing space clusters, I went all over the country, and I'd have demonstrators in different stores and museums, and I'd show them how space clusters worked. And I'd show the kids, you take this triangle, and then you take this rod, and you stick it inside the opening of the intersection. So it didn't take a lot before you got something that was kind of cool. Every time someone did something, they're doing it for the first time ever. It was discovery every moment. That's the way it's been for me. Discovering things all the time, constantly discovering new shapes and new places and new spaces. It's kept my interest for 40 years. Goodness gracious. I wanted to make the shapes that I saw in this geometry that I was playing with in an optic form, so I could experiment with how light reacted to these particular lenses. Now these are multi-dimensional lenses, where most lenses that we're used to seeing are curved, concave, or convex, and so forth and so on, but pretty much two-dimensional. I would shoot lasers through them and see how the light reacted going through these types of optics. This Tryon Ray is what I believe to be an individual photon of light that moves through the universe and connects and weaves that multi-dimensional loom of space itself. Now, I can say it is, but science has said that light is so small, an individual photon is so small, and it's so fast, we'll never be able to see it, so we'll call it a particle. It's a particle. We could discuss what a particle is from now until forever, but we'll never be able to see it, and we'll never know what it is. I believe that it is not a particle. It is described as a three-dimensional solid. It has length, it has breadth, it is a volume. Ideas, thoughts, information can be contained within the light. The first conscious realization that occurs is pattern recognition. Consciousness is contained within the light. Every avenue is open, every option is there. That's freedom. I was willing to die for what they call freedom. And I realized that wasn't the freedom worth dying for. The freedom of choice and freedom to live and freedom to believe and the freedom to know. Do I think my work has been worthwhile? I had it all figured out in my mind when you asked me that question, and lots of different thoughts ran through my mind of worthwhile. To find out who I really, truly, my authentic, true self is, to know that me and the universe exist as one, that no matter what is or whatever isn't, I am part of everything that ever was and ever will be, to know that you are the stars in the universe and that we are all connected to everything and nothing ever ends and it's eternal, to know that my life has been a constant revelation of my connectedness to everything that there is. Like Mad Magazine. What, me worry?